Let's talk about splitting the signal from an X32. In the old days, with everything analog, you used to have a device called a splitter snake, where you could tap into an existing set of channels and send that to a separate board for mixing or recording, those sort of things. But with the X32 and other digital boards, we can do this a little more simply. So on the back of your board, if you wanted to do it for recording, you'd be using this USB thing right here, and that would send to your computer for your DAW software, and you can have a separate channel for each instrument for recording. But just for more simple purposes, for live situations, and especially for probably common to a lot of people would be for streaming, we had a couple of signals split out to send to let's say a nursery, and one to a video recorder. So that's another simple application where you just need either a mono or stereo signal out. So we would just send them out to via these auxiliary outputs. And see, on the X32 rack, we've only got 8 outputs here instead of the full 16. So we're able to meet a little extra need by using the auxiliary outputs. So let's take a look at where we find that sort of thing. That'd be under routing. So if we click on the routing, the auxiliary outputs are here on this tab, and the hard outputs, the XLR ones, over here. So on this, I've sort of got some duplicates. I don't actually have monitors 1 through 3 on that and the auxiliary outputs. And since I'm not next to the machine, I can't remember which one I actually have them physically connected. But just remember that the auxiliary outputs are the 1/4 inch and RCA up above, and these outputs here are the XLR balanced outputs. And let's see here. So if you look on the auxiliary outputs that are going to the nursery and to the video recorder, that is being sent from Matrix 1 to the nursery and Matrix 2 to the video recorder. So a matrix is a little bit different than a bus. It's a compilation of other things, I think mostly buses. So the way I've got it set up, right here, you can see that this bus that I've labeled to matrix is going to matrix 1 and 2. And also the left-right signal is going to matrix 1 and 2. So it's getting everything that you can hear in the house, plus a little bit more of certain things that we've added to a bus that are going here. Now this bus, you can adjust that matrix by clicking and dragging up and down. So however much you want of this bus to add to the matrix or take away from the matrix is done there. And let's see here. So if I click on bus 4, which is to matrix, you can see the sends on fader set up. So this is a great way to operate if you're splitting a signal. In this case, this is a bus that's going to go to that matrix. And you'll notice that the only thing that's going there are these instruments that might naturally be loud in the room, and they would be probably pulled down in the house mix. Like the piano, a lot of times is so loud that you wouldn't have anything in the house mix, or you'd have very little. So you want to sort of bump it up to applications like streaming, video camera recording, or sending off to an auxiliary room such as a nursery or another observing room. And you turn off channels by or you mute them by just turning them off. So right now I've got Pastor and MC muted. So if you wanted to, instead of sending this matrix or this bus to a matrix that has both the stereo plus a little extra boost. Now the reason we did that was so it sort of keeps the management down a bit. So whoever's mixing the house is generally speaking going to have it pretty on target. But so the person, if there's only one engineer who's mixing the house, they can then go back and check to see, well, maybe we need a little extra of something else that's going to one of these other feeds. But if you have a dedicated engineer who can listen in, say, for example, to your live stream, and they want just a complete split, then what you would do is just send this, instead of sending this to a matrix, we would just make it its own bus, and then just go to the routing, and over here on the auxiliary outputs, instead of sending to the matrix, instead of tying to the matrix these outputs, you would tie the outputs to the bus. Let's see here. So just say for the video recorder, we're going to do 4 and 5 bus mix for a stereo channel, or we could just do both of them a mono channel by having them on bus mix 4, which suits our needs just fine. So that way we could click on bus 4, and then you would have to completely mix this from scratch. So whatever the vocalist, etc., you would mix that without any, just basically the same way you would mix monitors one at a time for each individual purpose. But that gives a lot more flexibility for the individual who's mixing just for your stream. And so they can be listening with headphones. And like I said, you can have, I think 6 or 8 people connecting to this box at one time. And the way that they're connecting is with that software, this here X32 Edit, or there's a Mixing Station Pro to go on your Android tablet. And they just connect over the Wi-Fi. So this here Ethernet port would need to connect to a router that's connected to Wi-Fi, and it's best to have that separate from any other part of your network. It should not be connected to the internet. It's just for talking to this, and you'd want to make sure that the Wi-Fi password is protected very well. You don't want anyone messing with your sound. And I think that's about it. So good luck.